Hi all, Pimenta here. Welcome to this Facebook Live on the topic of CFS and routines for results. Apologies if you tried to catch me, there was some tech issue, so I've just gone live directly on Facebook. So I can't share my slides, but never mind. So a very successful entrepreneur called Ferris says that if you want results, you need routines. Now, I'm not naturally a routine person, but I've found it to be true, especially in doing things that supported recovery from CFS. So if you think about it, many successful people have routines, whether they're in the field of sports, music, science. I am quite into tennis, and I remember reading about Roger Federer and his routine, which involved spending a lot of time practicing, getting up quite early. And I did a Facebook Live recently, and I talked briefly about routines, and a few people said, routines, what routines? And wanted me to talk on that topic. So if you are watching live, do send me a comment so I know you can see me and hear me, checking everything's all working. So yeah, I want to talk about the difference between having routine and structure and flexibility. On one end of the spectrum, people could become very rigid about having routines. On the other end, absolutely no structure, no routines. Obviously, being rigid doesn't help because that causes stress. But also having no structure, going to bed at all hours, is also not useful. I talk about the tent analogy. A tent has poles which are rigid, but it also has pegs which are rigid. Also has guy ropes which can be rigid if they're tight. They are also flexible. And then you've got the canvas which has flexibility. The tent without the poles is not going to keep you warm and rain free. So you need both, and so it's really important to find balance. And there's a secret source, and that secret source is our intuition. So we need to tune into our intuition. I did talk about the difference between intuition and instinct in a video that I posted this week on CFS and using tech, so check that video out. But if you're not used to tuning into your intuition, then that can take practice. So what routines am I talking about? I would love to be able to share my iPad with you so I can show you, but you're just going to have to bear with me. So if you get a bit pen and paper, I'd like you to draw a line down the middle of that paper and consider what are the things that you do that you think may hinder your recovery. So just brainstorm what are a few things. For me, certainly it was when I didn't have any routine and was not kind of sticking to a routine of what time I went to bed, what time I got up. That wasn't very helpful. At one point I didn't really have a structure in terms of when I did activity and pausing and recharging when I needed to. Sometimes I would just do things that I was enjoying for too long, and that would leave me feeling depleted. So consider that. What are the things that you do that you think may hinder your recovery? And then on the other side of the paper, consider what are the things you could do that will help. So I know when I was very poorly and was spending quite a lot of time resting, it was really useful for me to have a rhythm. So to get up, have breakfast, and then pause and rest. And then when I felt like it, do a bit of activity, have a little pause or lunch, then have a post-lunch rest, and then do more activity. So I found a rhythm, and that kind of helped me manage my energy when my energy was low. So spend a bit of time doing that. If you're watching the replay, just pause the video and just write down whatever comes to your mind. I can see there are a few people watching do send me a message, and I'll see if I can see the message on my phone. Let's just see. Oops. So Doris is saying I can see and hear you. Thanks for letting me know. So the next question to consider is looking at that list of the things that you know may be hindering your recovery, and you know the things that will help, to just write down what are some action steps. And I'll give you some ideas, and you may choose to add them to your list. So it's worth thinking about the bookends of the day. So the beginning of the day, the end of the day. You know, what routines would be useful for you as you start your day? You know, if you've watched some of my videos before, you've probably heard me talk about the difference between being reactive and proactive. So one of my habits used to be waking up and spending time just scrolling on Facebook. That's the first thing I do when I woke up. And about a year or so ago, I decided that actually I didn't want to do that. I wanted to actually get up, make a drink and do some exercise. So that's what I've been doing for about a year or so. So think about it. How do you want to start your day? Do you want to be reactive, responding to other people's texts, messages, emails, Facebook posts, or do you want to be proactive and think about how you want to start your day, you know, which will give you a sense of momentum, give you a sense of satisfaction by, you know, doesn't have to be exercise. It might be you want to meditate, might be you do some gentle stretching or do a task that's going to set you up for the day. It might be planning your day. But to think about that, what would be a good start, a good way for you to start your day? Then if we think about the other ends of the day and evening routines, what could be some good routines for you? I follow a coach called Brian Johnson, and he talks about having a digital sunset. So this is the time that he turns off his tech. And he suggests that we turn the tech off at least an hour and a half before we go to bed. There is research that shows exposure to blue light can actually interrupt the production of melatonin and interrupts or hinder the quality of sleep. And even wearing blue blocker glasses, there was one bit of research that showed that when they shone a laser light on someone's leg, it affected their sleep quality. Okay. And another thing to think about at the beginning of the day is that there's good evidence that getting sunlight exposure, if you can, actually strengthens our circadian rhythm. Okay, so that's why for me one of the things I think is really useful is when I get up, do some exercise, get outside. And then if you think about your day, what do you want your day to look like in terms of activity, in terms of recharging activities? So as I said, for me, you know, at one point when my energy was pretty low, I would have a period of rest after breakfast. What I now realise would have been really good is, number one, to do some relaxation stuff, which I did do, but also to actually kind of tune in to what was going on emotionally, because sometimes what was affecting my energy was emotional stuff. And having strategies for processing emotions can be, you know, really helpful. Would it be useful for you to have a meditation routine or a yoga practice? Some people aren't used to meditating, and it's fine if you recognize that that might be useful. You don't have to do half an hour of meditation. You could just start with a minute and do that a few times a day. And when you feel comfortable, you could build it up to 2 minutes, 3 minutes, etc. Now, going back to the point I made about having structure and routine and also being flexible, this is where the intuition comes in. It's important that you tune into your intuition and discern when it's useful to stick to that routine and when it's not. So there were times when, it might be, okay, it's my time to do some activity now, but actually my body was not telling me that that's what it wanted to do. What my body was telling me is that I needed to pause, tune in, calm my physiology. And even as I started to get better and was able to do more physical activity, what I realised is I needed to have a more flexible approach to movement, because at one point my approach to movement was to get on my bike, for instance, and cycle hard around the park for an hour. And I realised there were times when, especially when I'd had a busy day, certainly when I was back at work, is that actually there were days when I just wanted to have some physical activity, but it didn't have to be full pelt. It was fine to just go for a walk for an hour in the park and just walk at a leisurely pace rather than walking at a brisk pace, or, as I say, cycling hard around the park. So one of the things I was talking about this week with a group who was doing my Calm course is course correction, being able to recognise when we're off balance and restoring equilibrium. I did do a Facebook Live recently on flipping the switch. So if you go to my Facebook page, then you'll find it. If you're on my YouTube channel, you'll find that video where I talk people through a few techniques to calm our physiology to enhance our well-being. So if you'd like that flip the switch exercise, if you're watching on Facebook, do comment below and I'll share the link. I'll send you a private message. If you're watching on YouTube, click the link below to contact me and just put the word flip in the message and I'll send you the link to that PDF. It's a really simple technique, but it's something you can do literally in a minute, and it's just a way of centering and grounding yourself. And I've shared it a number of times in my group coaching and, as I say, on the Calm course, and people really like it. So check that out. So another routine you might do is just looking at your week and looking at your day. It might be at the beginning of the day, look at the day and the next day and think about what is it you need to do today in order to, make the day smooth and streamlined. What do you need to do in preparation for tomorrow? So, for example, I can remember when I had ME/CFS, if I was doing something on a particular day, like going out for a meal, or it might be an appointment, or going shopping, I wasn't very good at being planned and organised. So if I was going out for a meal, for instance, I'd be ironing my shirt in the morning, doing stuff that I needed to do that I could have just done the day before, and it would have just made my morning easier if I'd just done a little bit of prep. So think about that. What can I do in advance? Might be just ironing your clothes. If you're going out, when I was going out shopping, I'd often take some food with me, so I could just prepare that in advance, so I'm not doing it at last minute. And you might think about your day in terms of planning your meals. Someone in my Facebook group talks about, making a big batch of food so she's got meals for the rest of the week. And just that extra bit of work on that particular day just makes the next few days easier. Let's just see if there's any other comments. Hi, just do feel free to say hi. Another routine that I got into was having a routine around doing a food order. These days you can get food delivered, which is pretty helpful. And a friend of mine is really good at planning the meals for the whole week. He's got a little whiteboard in the kitchen, plans all the meals for the week so that when he does his food shop, he knows exactly what to buy. I have done that sometimes, and I found it really helpful. Other times I kind of forget, and then I'm spending more time doing trips to the supermarket to just get some food because I've run out. So think about that. Also like to consider, what are your routines and habits around food, around snacks? I remember there was one point where my afternoon routine was to have a Snickers bar, and I realised that that actually wasn't very helpful, and I started shifting towards more healthier snacks, having oatcakes with hummus and some carrot sticks, and now I am in the habit of having some protein, some beans and veg as a snack sometimes, because I find that sustains me more. Or I might make a smoothie with some protein, pea protein, blueberries, bit of avocado, and again it's a kind of healthier way of having a snack. I'd like you also to consider, what are your routines when you are upset, maybe when you've overdone it. So for instance, what I recognise is that one of my routines when I was annoyed or frustrated is that all of my good habits would go out of the window, and this was the time when I needed to stick to those good habits. Or I know some clients have said that when they're upset they binge eat or they binge watch stuff on telly, stay up too late, and that just kind of digs them further into a hole. So I'm unable to share my screen and show you the daily worksheet. I don't think I can. Let's just see if there's any way of, I don't usually use Facebook, so can't see if there's any way of sharing my screen. But I will post the link to a daily worksheet, and you can download that worksheet, and it's just a tool to help you plan in some of those routines. As I say, bear in mind that tent analogy. Okay, we need a bit of structure, but we also need flexibility, and it's really important to tune into your intuition, because our intuition can guide us. And the more we listen to our intuition, we can be guided by that, and that can really help us to do the next thing that's going to help us, that's going to boost our energy, help us recharge. So if you've got any comments, pop them in the chat. Otherwise we'll finish with a very brief exercise. Maybe we'll do the flip the switch exercise just to finish. So any comments, let me know. Lisa says, I'm sorry I'm late. No problem. I was late, to be honest. So, because I had some tech issues. So I can't see any comments. So let's finish with a very brief exercise, which I call flip the switch. So what I'd like you to do is, obviously only if it's safe for you to do so, I'd like you to close your eyes. Obviously don't close your eyes if you're not safe doing so. And whether you're sitting or lying, what I'd like you to do is just to adopt good posture. Imagine a thread at the top of your head pulling you up. So your chest is up and your chin is down. Just make sure your posture is symmetrical. So for instance, if someone's lying down and they're sort of lying on one elbow, then that's not very symmetrical. It's putting tension on your muscles. So just lie flat, make sure you're comfortable, and just adopt that good posture. And now what I'd like you to do is just to take a deep, slow breath, breathing in through your nose, into your belly, and breathing slowly out your nose. And just make sure that the out breath is just a little bit longer than the in breath. Because when we do that, we are activating the parasympathetic state. And step 3 is just to connect to the best version of yourself. So there's a part of you that has responded to situations in a resourceful way, maybe a challenge, or maybe someone came to you with an issue and you just responded to them or that situation in a grounded way, in a calm way, connecting to your own inner wisdom, and you just dealt with that situation in a resourceful way. You can give that best version of you a name, whatever you want. The guy who shared this exercise with me calls it the best version of himself, Optimus. But you can choose whatever you want. But just say hi to that you, that best version of you. And by doing that, you're just reminding yourself gently that that is part of you. And the next thing I'd like to do is, as you're breathing in slowly, breathing out slowly with that out breath, just slightly longer than the in breath, I'd like you to just put a smile on your face. And now breathing in with that smile on your face. Again, breathing into your belly. Breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your nose. And as you just do those 5 steps that I've just walked you through, you're flipping the switch. You're just accessing the parasympathetic state. So say if you're watching on Facebook, comment the word flip and I will PM you that link. If you're watching on YouTube, click the link below and send me a message, put the word flip in the message box and I'll send you the link to that exercise and also the video in which I walk you through that and a few other exercises. So if you've got any questions, then pop them in now. Hi to everyone who is watching now. If you like more tips, more resources, then do join my Facebook group. Maybe I'll put the link below as well. And if you've got any questions, feel free to get in touch. Always happy to hear from people. Doris says flip, so I will send that to you. But I will say for now, thanks for watching, wishing you great health. Bye for now. Let's see if I can work out how to end the video. Bye for now, everyone.